Good vibes, guys. Back again for another video today. And today's video, I'm actually going to be telling you guys who I, in my opinion, think is the best player on every single NBA. Now, just to let you all know, stuff like this is entirely, in my opinion, and it can be controversial. And there are going to be things that y'all don't agree with, and that's okay, because it's just me, and my opinion doesn't matter compared to millions of other opinions. So, calm down. It's okay, and tell me in the comments what you think, and I might reply honestly if I agree, if you can change my mind. Because some of these people, I could easily be persuaded to the other side. There were some that were really, really close, and others that were obvious, like LeBron. But before we get started today, I actually have a sponsor.
Is YouTube.
Alright, with that in mind, let's dive into the video. First up is the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm going out big. LeBron James. Now, this is obvious. We know this. Anthony Davis is a dominant big man, arguably top 5, top 3 in the NBA currently right now. However, I shouldn't have to dive deep into this one. LeBron James, even though he's 36 years old, is still playing out of his mind. His value to the team is immeasurable, and there's a reason why they are 9-3 or 10-3. I think they're 10-3. So, yeah, and they're 7-0 on the road. LeBron adds a lot to that. And so that's why I think LeBron's the best player on this team, arguably the best player in the league. Next up, Golden State Warriors. And the best player on the Golden State Warriors to me is Stephen Curry. With Klay Thompson out this year, Steph Curry is obviously the best player on the Golden State Warriors. After his 62-point performance and his legacy, he's been the best player on the Warriors arguably for a while, even with Kevin Durant. Now, that is maybe an overstatement. Perhaps Kevin Durant was bigger than Steph Curry. But what I will say is that when you think of Golden State Warriors, do you think of Kevin Durant or Steph Curry? That's what I thought. Next up, the Brooklyn Nets, and now they have 3 superstars. Superstars. They have 3 superstars. They have Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. But if I was to take one out of those 3, whose value is higher than the rest, is more consistent, and I would take any other day, is Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant has been a superstar for a long time, arguably the greatest offensive scorer or just offensive player in general in NBA history. I mean, this man's a cheat code. He's very efficient. He can ball handle. He can pass. You know, defense may be a liability every now and then, a decent bit with Kevin Durant. But all in all, he is the best player, and I expect more out of him than any of the other 2. Next up, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is definitely the best player on the Bucks, unless you're a Chris Middleton fan. You're crazy. Nothing against Chris Middleton personally. But Giannis has won MVP twice. And not only MVP twice, but he is the most recent MVP 2 years back. Or even 2 seasons back. More than 2 years if you think about it. So, with that in mind, Giannis is by far the best player on this team. And probably for the long future in Milwaukee, unless he leaves, he will be. Next up is the Denver Nuggets, and for the Denver Nuggets, this is Nikola Jokic. Jokic has been out of his mind this season. He's averaging a triple-double. More than that, he's averaging a ton of points as well. His presence on the court is incredible. His vision is insane. He is in the MVP conversation and well-deservingly. The closest guy to him is Jamal Murray, and Murray has been inconsistent. And so because of that, this is an easy one. It's Nikola Jokic. The LA Clippers are up now, and this one could go either way. But I think counting the playoffs and regular season, I would take Kawhi Leonard over Paul George. This is no, something to think back to too much. Paul George has been an MVP caliber player, but Kawhi Leonard, when he is on the court, he is an incredible player, defensive and offensive, a player you just want to have on your team. The only problem is his load management. That's always been an issue. But as you saw in Toronto, it worked out fine. They won a championship. He went to LA. It didn't work out last season, but this year's a new year. And I definitely think that Kawhi Leonard is the best player on the LA Clippers. With the 76ers, if it was last season, I would have been like, eh. But by far this season, the best player on the best player on the Philadelphia 76ers, I can't speak, is Joel Embiid. because Ben Simmons has not been really scoring the ball this year. I don't know why, but Joel Embiid has been a monster. The other night he had, what was it? Was it 42 points? 45? I think it was 45. And like 16 rebounds. The dude's a killer. He's a beast. And they won that game against Miami in overtime. The dude's averaging about 25, 27 points per game this season. And the dude, just give him props. He is giving Jokic a run for his money for the best center in the NBA currently. Up next is the Washington Wizards. Wizards fans, or I should say Russell Westbrook fans, I'm sorry. Listen, I've always liked watching Russell Westbrook play. I've been cheering for him ever since he left OKC. Nothing against OKC. It's just, I've just been cheering for him because I was scared it wouldn't really work out. Because you know how some players, when they've been with a team long enough and then they go to another team, it goes downhill from there. We're talking about DeMarcus Cousins as an example. Who else would be a good example of this? Kind of Gordon Hayward, kind of. That was just because of the injury, but from Utah to Boston, you get what I'm saying. Even DeMar DeRozan. So players usually kind of fall off a cliff there, and so yeah, Bradley Beal is my best player on the Wizards. I'm sorry, Russell Westbrook fans. Russ just has to show up this season. In every game I've seen him put up stats, they've just been empty stats, man. And they are one of the worst teams in basketball, so they got to figure something out. Next up, speaking of DeMar DeRozan, it is the San Antonio Spurs. And my best player for the Spurs is DeMar DeRozan for now. It all depends on how the rest of the season goes. They have valuable players this year in Keldon Johnson, who's been averaging about 13 points per game. Lonnie Walker's been averaging around that too. LaMarcus Aldridge is Aldridge, but he's showing age. And he is starting to go down in his career for sure. And DeJounte Murray's a great player, but I would definitely take DeMar DeRozan over DeJounte Murray. So I'm taking DeMar. Next up, Portland Trail Blazers. You know what? I'm going to give a hand to see. You know what? Here. This is to CJ McCollum. Fantastic player the entire season so far through 11 or 12 games. So it's still short time, but gotta hand it to CJ McCollum. The dude's been insane. He's been an offensive force. But my best player on the Portland Trail Blazers has to be Damian Lillard. And I know Blazers fans agree with me as well. Damian Lillard's value to the franchise, not just on the court, but off the court, is insane. He means so much to the city. He has forever. I personally love Damian Lillard myself, and I'm not even a Portland fan. I didn't mean to do that. My bad. That was weird. But I'm not even a Portland fan myself, but I still like Damian Lillard. It's just a fact. And honestly, statistically, he has more value than CJ McCollum. He is the better player. And words don't lie. I mean, Damian Lillard has more All-Star appearances than CJ McCollum. Look it up. So, yes, that's my take for Portland. Next is the Utah Jazz. And you know what? I hate having to say this, considering how big Rudy Gobert's contract is. But the best player on the Jazz is Donovan Mitchell. And I think value-wise is Donovan Mitchell as well. Because he is a scorer. He can do so much more other than that as well. And his value on the court is insane. You take Donovan Mitchell out of the game for the Jazz, they're not winning a lot of games. Maybe a playoff team. I'd hope so with Rudy Gobert getting that much money. Yeah, Mike Conley. But definitely Donovan Mitchell. And from probably for the foreseeable future, it will be Donovan Mitchell. Then we get to the Timberwolves. You know, D'Angelo Russell, he's a great player. I'll keep it real. He is a good player. But Karl Anthony Towns, when he's healthy, is the best player on the Timberwolves. He has been since he basically got drafted. I think you guys can agree with me on that. He was better than Andrew Wiggins. Karl Anthony Towns is a great player, offensive player. He's terrible at defense, but offensively, he's a great center, great big man. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's on a different team in the foreseeable future, just because of how bad that situation's been for Cat. But he is definitely the best player on the Timberwolves now and for the foreseeable future. Next up is the Atlanta Hawks. This is easy. Trae Young. The only other guy who's competing with that is probably John Collins. And John Collins is good, don't get me wrong. But when Trae Young is at his best and at his peak, offensive onslaught. Like, we're talking about like James Harden sort of comparisons. The dude's insane. He's great. Can't play defense to save his life. But he is definitely a potential Hall of Famer if he keeps playing like this and even escalates his game, I'd say. Next up is the Orlando Magic, and this one is where it starts to get kind of close. Judging by this season, I am taking Nikola Vucevic. Now, he's been doing great for this Magic team. The Magic started out as like one of the best teams in basketball at the beginning of the season, and have since come back to earth with Markelle Fultz tearing his ACL. They still don't have Jonathan Isaac, and they've just been dealing with things here and there, and they lost DJ Augustine in free agency, but all in all, Vucevic has had a great season. The team is above 500, I believe. Yeah, they're above 500. And so a lot of that's due to Nikola Vucevic, his work ethic and how much he's putting into each game. And so props to him. And he has been an all-star in the past, so we'll see if he can keep it up. Next team is the Memphis Grizzlies, and I'm not doing this currently because currently Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant are injured. On a healthy team, the best player on the Memphis Grizzlies is Ja Morant in value and on the court, because Ja Morant, he's a great playmaker. You know, he can play some defense. You know, he's good at offense. He's great at scoring at the rim, especially, and he has a lot of promise as well. I mean, we're talking about the Rookie of the Year, for crying out loud. You know, I really think he has a lot of upside. I think he has a lot of upside. And there's a lot of potential for Ja Morant, too. I think you guys can agree with that. What is going on with my camera? Right, there we go. There we go. I know you guys can probably agree with me on that. As of right now, you can argue Jonas Valanciunas is a major part of that team, and Jaren Jackson Jr., but I think a lot of y'all could agree that when you think of the Grizzlies, you think of Ja Morant. Unless you're a Jonas Valanciunas fan. The Pacers are up, and see, this is where it just gets tough. It gets tough. But with Oladipo gone, this made it a lot easier for me. The best player on the Indiana Pacers, in my opinion, is Domantas Sabonis. He's had a great season, one of the most underrated players in the NBA. Never thought I'd say that because I used to not be a Sabonis fan at all, but his value is great. The Pacers are having a great season. I know Malcolm Brogdon's having an awesome season as well. I know Miles Turner's having a great season. I know they now have Karis LeVert. Doesn't matter. I'm taking Sabonis out of the bunch. The Pistons are up, and this hurts my heart knowing that Derrick Rose is on this team, and I'm not saying his name, but the best player on the Detroit Pistons, as of right now, is undeniably Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant's had a great season, incredible season, of averaging about over 25 points per game this season. He's been efficient. He's been solid ever since he left Denver. He's fulfilling that bigger role, and he's doing it great. Now, to be fair, the Pistons suck. They are trash. But yeah, that's who I picked. I'm sorry for you Blake Griffin fans out there, but yeah, it's not looking too good for Blake Griffin. He's had a really rough season. So prayers up that he ends up getting better, because I think those injuries may have derailed his career. Now we get to the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all the way entirely. I think that he's a great offensive player. He has a lot of potential. And there's a reason why the Thunder aren't as bad as people thought. Again. Next up is the Charlotte Hornets, my team. And I know Gordon Hayward got hurt last night. I'm fingers crossed, praying that he's okay, because boy do we need him. His value on the court is great. His vision is great. His scoring is great. When he's in the game, he has so many different ways to score. He just fulfills so many roles that we need. We need an initiator, and he does that well. I know Terry Rozier's had a great season, but Terry Rozier has kind of been inconsistent. He honestly really has as of lately. He had a decent game last night, but 18 points is, I mean, meh. You know, we lost to Dallas last night, but Hayward, he brings a lot of value to the team, and I'd honestly take Hayward right now over anybody else on the Charlotte Hornets team. Next up is the Toronto Raptors, and this is probably the first one where you are going to disagree with me. That is okay. When I'm thinking of the best player on every team, I'm thinking of value on and off the court, and I'm just thinking about how good of a player they are. When you think of the team, who do you think of? And right now, for the Toronto Raptors, I think of Kyle Lowry. I know Pascal Siakam's good. He is good. Do not get me wrong. He is great. But the Toronto Raptors, unless they beat the Hornets tonight, are one of the worst teams in basketball record-wise. Fred VanVleet, great player. Great offensive player. Pascal Siakam, great player. Siakam is inconsistent, though. And honestly, from a Toronto fan side, seeing how much Kyle Lowry has done and his playmaking and just in general, I would take Kyle Lowry over anybody else really on that Raptors team. Because you just watch the Toronto Raptors game and see what he does for that team. You know, he'll have his off nights, but there's a reason why last year he was an all-star, averaging like only 19 points per game or so. I mean, the dude can ball. He can hoop. He's the reason why they won a championship alongside Kawhi Leonard. Now, he's not the main reason why, but I really do feel like had the Raptors not had Kyle Lowry, they wouldn't have won that finals. Next up is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and once again, y'all probably won't agree with me, but I really strongly feel like the best player this season is Colin Sexton. Now, I know Andre Drummond is a beast. Don't get me started on his stats. I know he's averaging something like 18 points and 15 rebounds a game. Incredible, great player. This is not throwing any hate at Andre Drummond. He's a beast. I admire Andre Drummond. He is cool. I feel bad that the NBA is kind of changing to where they don't need him as much. But if you notice, I'm pretty sure he's the guy. Maybe I'm thinking of JaVale McGee. I think they're both. But three-point shooting. You know, at least trying. I'm trying to change your game a little bit. That's great. It's good. But I think that Colin Sexton is the best player in this situation. Just because, you know, Colin Sexton, he can hoop this season before he got injured, which is not, I don't think it's a serious, like a terribly bad injury. Him and Garland were insane. So much fun to watch. They were one of the best teams in basketball way in the very, very beginning. But still, they were great. And Colin Sexton was averaging like 26, 27 points per game. So I'm hoping he can come back to the court soon because, man, has he had you could say, a most improved player sort of situation. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't argue that. Next up is the Dallas Mavericks, and I am definitely choosing Boban Marjanovic. Just kidding. I'm choosing Luka Doncic, although we all love us some Boban. I love me some Boban. Luka, what do I have to say? He's got a lot of promise. He started the season shooting really bad after beating the Hornets last night and almost having a 35-point triple-double. His shooting is good. It's not elite, but it's still good. His field goal percentage on the season is a career high so far. 3-point is still down, but it'll come back. I'm sure it will. And his stats are just incredible. His value is incredible. And Kristaps is a good player, don't get me wrong, but I think all of us can agree that Luka's the best team on that player. Next up is the Houston Rockets, and I know Oladipo is there, but I'm going to say John Wall for now. I feel like John Wall has had a great season. You know, his efficiency's been a little meh, but in the games he's played, he's averaging 20 or so points per game, maybe a little less after the most previous game. But 20 points per game behind James Harden. No, I know he hasn't been doing great. James Harden hasn't been doing great. But again, James Harden was taking shots, right? And that's excluding offensive or defensive rebounds. So John Wall was playing behind James Harden regardless of how many points James Harden had. And the Rockets were losing. So I feel like John Wall's value will go up now that James Harden's gone, which I was excited about. Don't miss out on the Rockets games. Don't throw them under the bus. I was waiting for James Harden to get the boot, and then I would start watching their games because it is going to be so much fun. Think of John Wall's comeback. Karis LeVert. Victor Oladipo, which I like that player too. Christian Wood, former Hornet. Look it up. And DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie. It's a great team, so much fun. And Ben McLemore. I'm a Ben McLemore fan, must admit, big fan. I've been a fan of his for a while. Hate on me, I don't care. He's no bust. He is good. He's a cheat code off the bench, and he was last year for the Rockets. He had like a few 20-point games. He is fun to watch too. Yes. And I also like Kenyon Martin Jr. That team is pretty fire, man. Rockets fans, get excited. I know y'all lost James Harden. I know you've had him for basically half of my lifetime. But get excited. It's getting better. Up next is the Sacramento Kings. I'm going to be quick about this. De'Aaron Fox is best player on that team for now. And he should be, considering the bag that he got. Now on the Boston Celtics, this is tough for me because I really like Jaylen Brown. But right now, when I think of the Celtics and I think of the value, I think of Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum in the playoffs last year was a beast. You know, he was great. He had games where he did not shoot good, but his value to the team is remarkably incredible. And I say remarkable because we saw his second year with Kyrie Irving, and it was not a great year after his rookie season. And so the fact that he elevated his game last year is just incredible. It's awesome. It's great. You know, he is a superstar. Jaylen Brown is an awesome player too. Incredible player. Will be an all-star this year. Mark my words. But I still think that value-wise, Jason Tatum is a better player. And for now, they are very close. But I am taking Jason Tatum. For the New Orleans Pelicans, for now, I'm saying Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is a scorer. He can do kind of everything. He can stretch. He can steal the ball. You know, he can do all sorts of things. He can play make a little bit, not a ton, but he's just an all around great player. And you know, Zion Williamson, great, incredible, has a lot of potential. But if I'm thinking about right now, I'm thinking of Brandon Ingram. Zion and Brandon Ingram are close, but right now I'm thinking about Brandon Ingram. And honestly, maybe even until Zion Williamson really takes that next major step and starts dropping 30 or something, or grabbing 20 boards in a game. Like, I just think Brandon Ingram is the best player on that team for now. That is something to argue. I'm actually going to ask you, try and convince me that Zion Williamson is the best player on this Pelicans team, because I want to believe it. I want to, but I feel like he's still too young, okay? If Ja Morant was on this team, I would still say Brandon Ingram. See, Ja Morant and Zion Williamson have a lot of upside, but they're also still really young and they need to develop. And it's kind of like Luka. If Luka Doncic had Kristaps Porzingis on his team his rookie season instead of Dirk, I would probably say Kristaps was the best player just because Luka had needed time to develop. I also feel like Zion and Ja need to develop a little more before I can go out and say, Zion Williamson is by far the best player on this Pelicans team. Although he probably does get the most revenue for this team. He definitely does. He's the reason people watch Pelicans games, not Brandon Ingram. 3 more teams to go. Next team is Miami Heat. I know. I'm just going to get it over with and let the comments say what they want. I think the best player on the Miami Heat is Jimmy Butler. I know, but his value in the playoffs is insane. Oh my gosh. I know he's been slow to begin this season, but do you guys remember? Please don't tell me y'all have forgotten what he did in the finals against LeBron. Please don't tell me. It was incredible to see him give everything in that finals run against the Lakers. Everything. Everybody counted that team out. I remember the first round, Jimmy Butler was getting interviewed by Rachel Nichols, and he said, our goal is to make the finals. I was like, you're not getting past Giannis. They got past Giannis. More than got past Giannis. They destroyed the Bucks. Jimmy Butler is the best player on that team. Bam Adebayo, incredible player. Could even, honestly, All-NBA. Definitely All-NBA player. But Jimmy Butler's value to that team, man, it is precious. You take Jimmy Butler out of that team in the NBA playoffs, they're not going anywhere. I can almost promise that. Next team is the Phoenix Suns, and I'm taking Devin Booker. Chris Paul's a great player, but he's declining, obviously. And Devin Booker is just an incredible offensive player, and the Suns are doing good this year. So props to them, and props to Devin Booker. And last but not least, the Knicks. And my best player on the Knicks is Julius Randle. Let's be real. Who thought that Julius Randle would be this good this season? I didn't. But he's been great so far this year. An incredible player all around, man. It's just insane to think about this. Guys like Click Productions must be scratching their heads at how this stuff went down. But yeah, some crazy stuff. Julius Randle's making this Knicks team 5-7 as we speak. That's kind of weird to say. I know they've slumped a little bit, but 5-7, the Knicks, not bad. So there you have it. That's all 30 teams. And please, if you disagree with any of these, let me know and try and persuade me otherwise, because with some of these guys, I am very easily persuaded away from my own opinion just because it was that close and I really had to think about it. But anyways, let me know in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later.